Hello, everyone. The time is now 1:01 p.m. and a quorum of the board is present. The regular meeting of the State Board of Education is reconvened. Our next piece on the agenda is public participation in the Board of Education meeting. Ms. Evans, are there individuals who wish to address the board during today's meetings?
Yes, there are people who have registered to provide public comment today, and I will review the rules. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board, and I will monitor the time. We will strictly follow the time limit to ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to speak. Please finish your sentence and conclude your comments when the timer expires. Thank you for your cooperation. It is the practice of the board not to respond to comments during the public participation segment of the meeting. We will maintain an atmosphere of respect for everyone. Anyone who disrespects another person, whether by name or in any other way, will be asked to stop. Public participation will take place both in person and online. We will begin with the individuals physically present today and then move to those in the queue waiting online. First person in the room today is Carrie Dickerson. If you'd please come up to the table. And right next on the submit for the record. Happy to distribute. Thank you. You're welcome. And once you're ready, seated and ready, you may begin your 3 minutes.
I have just submitted a physical copy of 2 of Snyder's resolutions and a letter of support from COPA regarding provisions of Senate Bill 952 to be formally attached to the minutes of today's meeting as a matter of permanent record. My name is Carrie Dickerson, and as the co-author of Senate Bill 952, I am here today to speak in support of its provisions alongside the resolution calling for a governor-appointed independent special education advisory panel. Under IDEA, states were tasked with ensuring disciplinary decisions, educator preparation, and administrative oversight upheld the rights of students with disabilities. However, Michigan cannot currently point to metrics showing administrative practices producing successful or compliant special education outcomes. Many provisions in the bill were developed using best practices from states currently meeting federal expectations, which Michigan has not done since at least 2016. Additionally, the increasing rate of special education complaints in the state indicates Michigan continues to fall short of providing these services in compliance with civil rights as mandated under federal law. The bill and the resolution supporting its provisions focuses squarely on these civil rights, ensuring children with special needs receive the support and protections they are entitled to under federal law. Although we must work collaboratively towards solutions, this must remain the primary focus of our efforts. Recently, the chair of the Special Education Committee posted the following on his social media. Our children cannot lobby Congress, legislators, or write campaign checks. They are depending on us to protect the future they deserve. I couldn't agree more. Michigan does not have a funding issue, but rather a compliance and oversight issue, particularly where the state and federal grants are concerned. Additionally, the bill explicitly allows immediate removal of any student posing a genuine safety threat to staff or other students. Safety and compliance are not in conflict. The resolution before you requesting the governor establish an appointed special education advisory structure in compliance with IDEA complements Senate Bill 952 by addressing a structural deficiency in our education governance. The current committee lacks the independence required by federal law, limiting its ability to provide genuine oversight and accountability. Establishing this panel with true structural independence will strengthen Michigan's compliance with federal law and provide families with a trusted, accountable resource outside the Department of Education. Together, the bill and this resolution represent a unified, federally grounded approach to improving special education outcomes in Michigan, which is 50 years overdue. They reaffirm our commitment to the civil rights of children with special needs. We have the data, we have the blueprint, and we have the resources. We know what we are currently doing is not working. After half a century, Michigan can no longer afford to delay meaningful action. It is time to demonstrate leadership and enact reforms which are long overdue. And from today's reading, see that you do not despise the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room today is Bree Mogenberg. Thank you. Once you're seated and ready, you may begin your 3 minutes of public comment.
Thank you so much. As a candidate for the State Board of Education, I appreciate the last public comment. Today, I'd like to bring thoughts forward regarding special education, a topic that has been brought to me from students, parents, and educators alike. I am thankful to see the recently presented Senate Bill 952, which aims to reform accountability, training, and protections for students with individualized education programs. Students are entitled to an appropriate education, services, accommodations, and due process. Those rights must coexist with the right of every student and educator to be physically safe at school. That brings me to two important questions about Senate Bill 952, and these are discussions I think that you should be having. First, Michigan law under Section 1311 of the Michigan's Revised School Code generally requires a permanent expulsion, subject to specific statutory expectations and possible reinstatement when a student possesses a firearm in a weapon-free school. Senate Bill 952 now expressly requires an investigation into whether the firearm possession was a manifestation of a student's disability, but the bill does not clearly state what a positive manifestation finding does to the expulsion requirement. My first question is simple. If firearm possession is determined to be a manifestation of a student's disability, does Michigan's permanent expulsion requirement under Section 1311 still apply, subject to existing expectations in federal law? If the answer is yes, the bill could be clarified to expressly say so. If not, it should be considered as an addition. Federal IDEA provides important context. It expressly allows a student who possesses a qualifying weapon to be removed to an interim alternative education setting for up to 45 school days, regardless of whether the behavior was a manifestation of the student's disability. My second question is about the safety of everyone in that alternative setting. Separating a student from the general pupil population does not necessarily protect the students and educators in the alternative setting, including other students with disabilities. What provision ensures that the alternative placement adequately accounts for the demonstrated safety risk to every student and staff in the alternative setting? A disability should never diminish a student's right to an appropriate education, but another student's placement in alternative ed should never diminish their right to come home safely from school. We can and should protect both, and if these discussions have not taken place, I hope that you consider them for future discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cheryl Kennedy. Thank you, and whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you, and it's a thrill to be sitting at this table as a public citizen, a retiree of the department, and it's good to see familiar faces. One of my retirement goals was to write a book about the adoption and foster care journey that I had with our youngest child and my relationship with her mother before she passed. Angela had 9 children, and near the end of her life, she invited me into her home, and I was able to walk in her footsteps, in the footsteps of those children who were all school age at the time. I wrote this book. The experience was profound for me and changed the direction of my professional life and really made me a warrior for equity. I hope that you have the opportunity to read this book. I provided one to everyone. It's a short read, about 3 hours, and allows you to walk in the footsteps of Angela and her 9 children who are still in our lives 25 years later. So I invite you to read it. I hope you can learn from it as I learned from the firsthand experience. And thank you for your time and thank you for your service. Did you get one, Judy? Did you get one, Emma? There you go. I did sign them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next in the room is Kristen Lee. Thank you. Whenever you're seated and comfortable, you may begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Kristen Lee from Livonia, serving with Citizens Defending Freedom. I come again to say thank you for your service to this board. It's always great to come in here and see this board and this department supporting the local districts, celebrating excellent teachers across the state and Teacher of the Year, as well as spotlighting the effective strategies going on across our state and providing that bridge of communication. It's really encouraging to see. Also, the intentional rowing in the same direction about literacy and the science of reading. And I also want to say thank you. I know I've pointed out in the past the use of Robert's rules and advocated for well, last month in June, a resolution was put forward and it was added to the agenda for open debate. And again, I want to appreciate that procedure and having the debate to be during that time, and also appreciate the passing of the resolution. And as we head into this 2026-2027 school year, recognizing America's 250th anniversary, encouraging civic education, that resolution said that it would be resolved that the Michigan Department of Education requires and celebrates the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, and that the board encourages Michigan schools and districts to provide age-appropriate opportunities for students to engage in the learning related to the Declaration of Independence, the nation's founding, the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, civic virtue, and the responsibilities of citizenship during the 2026-2027 school year, and that districts are encouraged to share educational resources, projects, assemblies, classroom activities to honor our founding and the enduring principles of liberty and constitutional government. And also that districts are encouraged to support learning opportunities to help students understand the continuing work of building a more perfect union through civic participation, constitutional democracy, and the expansion of liberty and justice over time. Thank you for modeling that here in that small way in the way that you do your business, and also just want to remind folks as we head into this year of that resolution and the opportunity we have ahead in a new school year to continue celebrating our nation's founding and the enduring principles. As well, I did want to bring forth a scripture from the Old Testament, Micah 6:8. It says, "What does the Lord require of you, O man, but to do what is right, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with him." And so it is my prayer that the Lord would bless this school year in Michigan, that many folks, families would be encouraged, students would be strengthened and would grow in their learning, teachers, administrators, and all of you here would be blessed in your service. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to those online. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very good. If you could please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your 3 minutes of public participation.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Lowe, and I am speaking on behalf of the Michigan Association of School Librarians, also known as MASL. In December 2025, Governor Whitmer said that Michigan is facing an all-hands-on-deck crisis in literacy. Properly funded and staffed school libraries should be a part of this all-hands-on-deck solution. Yet too many students in Michigan, approximately 50%, do not have access to a school library. We urge the Michigan Department of Education to include funding for school library materials and staffing in their legislative priorities moving forward. Some additional items to support include completing a joint effort between MDE and MASL to create Michigan learner competencies for the school library, ensuring that school librarian specialists are included in literacy efforts at the state level, and encouraging local districts to include school librarian specialists in local literacy efforts, and ensuring that school librarians receive letters training. Ensuring that local districts understand that classroom libraries should never replace school libraries, and finally, employing a school library consultant at the state level. The Michigan Association of School Librarians is ready to collaborate with the Michigan Department of Education and other organizations to be a part of the all-hands-on-deck solution to the literacy crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you need anything else from me?
No, that's it today. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very good. If you could please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your 3 minutes.
Thank you. I am Kelly Van Setters, and I am here to talk on behalf of the Michigan Council of Teachers with Mathematics, and on behalf of all of our educators across the state of Michigan, and of course our students that trickles down to. So I'm hoping to talk to you a little bit about math today, and if you remember back from your K-12 math experience, you likely sat in rows, listened to the teacher, follow the directions, learn the procedures, which, we all end up forgetting after the unit test. A lot of our classrooms continue to look like this these days, and the students that we're hoping to create are being created by these classrooms. What we're hoping to talk about is how we want to modernize mathematics for students across Michigan, utilizing tools that have already started being put in place
across the state. So what we're hoping for are students who can reason and problem solve, students who get an unknown problem and pause to think, how might I attack this? How might I talk to somebody else or use a model or a tool to solve these problems, similar to what we need to do in life every day. But we can't create these types of learners in classrooms dominated by memorization and answer getting and compliance. So a few things the Michigan Council of Teachers of Mathematics are advocating for is first, creating a robust shared vision of what high quality math instruction looks and sounds like. So curriculum matters, yes, but that does not alone lead to high quality math instruction. So with this, we really want to center our learners and the vision for the learners that we're hoping to create, utilizing the early math essentials that have become a powerful tool for educators across the state, the disciplinary literacy essentials, which serves the same for 6-12 educators, as well as nationally recognized resources from NCTM and NCSM. We also want to continue investing in that early math that we have so profoundly put in place the past few years. We've seen huge increases in early numeracy in those places where the 23H grant has been allocated to, with early math specialists and supporting that system where educators have sustained opportunities to develop the knowledge and instructional practices to make that happen. The continuity, especially, starting to build that infrastructure, the knowledge, relationships, and capacity is huge to continue on in some capacity, even though that did not get funded in the state budget this year. Lastly, we really hope to advocate for a robust selection committee where the expertise and multiple perspectives are recognized. So math ed researchers, our friends Jill and Mike and Brittany from MDE, their math consultants, many of the researchers that have supported the work that has already been happening across the state of Michigan. So we're really advocating for a rigorous, robust rubric to select those resources to create the kinds of mathematicians' experiences that will develop the learners we described earlier. So thinking back to those learners, we really want students to be reasoners, problem solvers, communicate, persevere, listen to understand, and understand new situations as well. And as we're talking,
Thank you.
you can hear these.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. Advocate for a robust selection.
Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. If you could please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your 3 minutes.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Maria Giancotti, and I'm with Student Advocacy Michigan. I've spent 6 years as a professional special education advocate, and I was an IEP mom myself for 12 years. In the last 6 years, I've helped hundreds of families who should have never needed to hire an advocate or an attorney if the system had worked the way it should and the law requires. Today, this board chose not to place any of the board member Snyder's 3 special education resolutions on the agenda for discussion. One of them addresses Senate Bill 952, which I co-authored, which is now in the Michigan Senate and referred to committee. And I want to tell you why this bill matters, from what I see every week. I've represented children wrongfully denied IEPs and 504 plans. I've represented disabled students wrongfully suspended and expelled. I've seen child find failed again and again. And that's the federal law requiring districts to proactively identify and evaluate children who may need help. And when it fails, children go unidentified for years without the services they need. The laws already exist under IDEA, the ADA, and Section 504. They're simply not being applied consistently. Senate Bill 952 addresses exactly this, pre-disciplinary safeguards before a child is removed long-term, real training for the staff applying these laws, transparency through public reporting on eligibility and discipline outcomes, a real complaint and enforcement process, and lastly, procedural safeguards so families get a clear explanation and appeal rights when a child's not found eligible for services. Just to be clear, we remain deeply concerned about the safety of all students and staff in every school, and the bill does not touch the law's requirement to remove a student in a dangerous situation. The mandatory expulsion for weapons stay fully in place. It just adds requirements to investigate whether the incident was tied to the disability or not, so that it doesn't happen again, and it's more of an added safety measure, not a change in when the removal is required. Michigan has acted before. In 2024, dyslexia laws were passed, and this year's weighted special education funding happened. But Michigan has also been rated in needs assistance or needs intervention by the Federal Office of Special Education Programs since before 2016. These are disabled students with civil rights, and the state is failing to protect them and provide what they need. This board created a bipartisan special education committee 2 months ago, and I'm glad to see that that happened. But what exactly does the committee plan to do if this own board won't let that topic and subject reach the floor? A committee without the will to act on the problem in front of it isn't reform, it's a placeholder. 2 years ago, I made the same request when I called in and made public comment on special education resolutions that were presented, and those were not added to the agenda either. Twice now, 2 years apart, this board has declined to even discuss reforming a broken system for a marginalized group of students with civil rights the state is required to protect.
Thank
The
you,
board's
caller,
support
for your
isn't
call
required
today.
to cancel.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. If you could please state your name and where you're calling from, you may provide your 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Michelle Melzick, and I'm calling from Troy, Michigan. Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Melzick, and I'm calling from Troy, Michigan. I'm a parent of a child with a learning disability, as well as a former public school teacher. I am asking for stronger transparency and accountability in Michigan's special education system. I know firsthand why this matters. I filed a state complaint involving my own school district, and it resulted in a finding and corrective action. I also raised concerns about the district's MTSS process. Later, I learned that a subsequent state complaint involving MTSS validated concerns about practices currently being used in my district. And mind you, this was a complaint from another parent and advocate within the district. Parents should not have to wonder if they are the only ones speaking up. State complaints from the Office of Special Education need to be made public in a searchable database with redacted information. I also want to tell you why I'm supporting Senate Bill 952. This legislation would strengthen special education training for educators, providing parents with a way to file complaints without having to fear retaliation from the school district. The process is intimidating, and this bill would strengthen protections for students with disabilities before suspension or expulsion. I believe we need to go one step further than this. State complaints, findings, corrective actions should all be made publicly available, with personally identifying and confidential information appropriately redacted and removed. We can protect the privacy of children and families while still being transparent about systemic problems and whether districts are complying with the law. This shouldn't be a secret. Protect the child, protect the family, but don't hide the findings. Michigan families deserve a special education system built and grounded on transparency, accountability, and trust at every level. Michigan students are counting on you. Which one are you going to choose? Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. If you could please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your 3 minutes.
Courtney Sabrin, Bay City, Michigan. My name is Courtney Sabrin, and I'm the mother of an 11-year-old child with autism and a cognitive impairment. I'm asking this board to support Senate Bill 952 and stronger training, transparency, oversight, and accountability within Michigan's special education system. For me, this is not political, it's personal. My son receives special education services through Bay Aranac ISD, located in Bay City, and our experience demonstrates why reform is necessary. My son spent years receiving instruction from a teacher who did not hold the special education endorsement matching his disability profile. I personally witnessed 3 providers attempting to deliver 3 separate IEP services simultaneously during a single 20-minute period. His records show this delivery model continued for nearly 3 years, resulting in the loss of thousands of minutes of required services. Those are years of development my son can never get back. Those same records also show that Medicaid was billed for services that were not actually delivered as documented. I also obtained internal correspondence showing my son's special education supervisor from Bay Aranac ISD someone responsible for overseeing programs and guiding local districts on compliance, asking whether a certified special education teacher was required to attend IEP meetings. A parent should not know the basic requirements of IDEA better than the professionals responsible for overseeing their children's education. But training is only part of the problem. The other is accountability. I used Michigan state complaint process and submitted records documenting concerns about my son's services, including discrepancies between what his IEP required, what was delivered, and what was billed. Yet these concerns resulted in findings of no violation. A complaint system means very little if objective evidence does not result in accountability. After I began publicly speaking about these records, the Michigan Education Association sent me a demand letter on behalf of the employees involved, threatening litigation over my statements. Parents should not have to choose between remaining silent and risking litigation for speaking publicly about documented concerns involving their child's education. They should not need an attorney to make objective evidence matter, and they should not have to become experts in IDEA, MARFs, FERPA, Section 504, and procedural safeguards simply to obtain what federal law already promises their children. This is why Senate Bill 952 matters. Michigan needs professionals who are properly trained before violations occur, transparency so families can determine whether services are actually being delivered, and meaningful oversight when they are not. My son cannot get those lost educational time back, but Michigan can act now to prevent another child from losing theirs. Please support Senate Bill 952 and meaningful special education reform. Our children deserve more than rights written on paper. They deserve trained professionals, transparency, and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very good. If you could please state your name and where you're calling from, you may begin your 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sally Gruber, and I would like to voice my support for Senate Bill 952. I'm a grandparent of special needs students. With all the disabilities prevalent in our children, it is imperative that teachers and districts have the tools to interact with students in a positive and meaningful way. This bill will provide for education and instruction for teachers and administration without adding more community and continuing ed time. I have emailed all the board members and senators in support of this bill, including Senator Bullock. I appreciated the thoughtful response from Senator Camilleri. Please advance this bill and ensure a committee hearing is scheduled for the students of Michigan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike, are there any other persons who have pre-registered for public comment today?
Nope, the lobby's empty.
Very good. This concludes public participation.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Mr. Flaminio. Thank you, Ms. Evans and Mr. Flaminio. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of State Board of Education minutes. The approval of the minutes of regular and committee of the whole. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes, please? Dr. Pritchett, support Ms. Lipton. Any discussion?
That's for the June?
For June, yes. Sorry, June 9th, 2026. I apologize. Oh, sorry. This is Mr. Marshall. We're just on the approval of the minutes from June 9th board meeting. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Ms. Evans, take the vote.
Bullock?
Yes.
Lipton?
Yes.
McMillan?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
Yes.
And Tilly?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the following item is item F, approval minutes of the Special Ed Committee of June 25th, 2026. Could I have a motion for that approval? Ms. Lipton, support. Dr. Pritchett, thank you. Any discussion?
What is this meeting again?
This is the approval of the Special Education Committee
Okay.
from June 25th, 2026.
Those minutes are in the email
Yes.
that Liz sent?
Yes.
All
Any other discussion?
Well,
Oh, Mr. McMillan?
just that I'm looking at the committee video recordings, and there is the July, but is there a June video, or is that we did not make a video of that, or? I'm just looking in.
The recording?
It did not get uploaded. There is a video of
Okay.
it, and we
It'll
can
be
upload
uploaded.
it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're good? Okay, thank you, Mr. McMillan. All right, Ms. Evans, take the vote.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton, McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item G is the approval of the minutes of Special Education Committee of July 30th, 2026.
So move.
Okay. Support, Dr. Pugh. Discussion. And Ms. Evans for the vote, please.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is H, the approval of the minutes of the Legislative Committee meeting of August 6, 2026. Could I please get a motion there?
So move.
Pritchett. Second, Senator Bullock. Oh, Mr. McMillan, yes.
I know this is maybe a little bit out of order, but the prior meeting approval, I just want to mention there was the PowerPoint. Is that available to the public that was in the special ed committee? It was really helpful. Some of the PowerPoints, is that available to the public? Or there was links.
We could,
If the links are in the minutes, then it's available
Yeah.
to the public.
Okay, yeah, they were.
Because
Okay.
it's in the agenda.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry.
oh,
Thank you.
no worries. Actually, it was very informative. That
Yeah.
PowerPoint,
Yeah.
So.
Especially the one with the wheels and the cogs. That was really good.
About
About how to figure all this out. I mean, like an
You
overview.
tried to,
Yeah.
because it's
really good.
complicated,
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Okay, any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. McMillan, Ms. Evans? Okay, go
Bullock?
ahead.
Yes.
Lipton? Yes. McMillan? Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh? Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
Yes.
And Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is item I, a presentation of Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, Goal 6, increase the percentage of adults with post-secondary credentials. Today's presentation will provide an update on the progress towards Goal 6 of Michigan's top 10 plan, increasing the percentage of adults with post-secondary credential. We welcome our presenters today, Ms. Maysam Alibazi, Chief Deputy Superintendent, Michigan Department of Education, now her second presentation, I guess, introducing, and then Dr. Beverly Walker-Graffia, Director, Michigan Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential, MyLeap, Ms. Sarah Serpicki, Deputy Director, Michigan Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential, MyLeap, and we're very pleased to have you all here today, and it's great to see everyone, and you know, the monthly meetings we have are very productive, and appreciate that. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Alibazi, and
Thank you, Dr. Malenko, and thank you to the board. I'm pleased to present today alongside Director Dr. Beverly Walker-Graffia and Deputy Director Sarah Sherpicki. Our partners at the Michigan Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential on the progress we're making towards Goal 6. As you know, Michigan's top 10 strategic education plans includes 8 goals, and today we'll be focusing on Goal 6, increasing the percentage of adults who hold a post-secondary credential. I'll share a brief overview of some MDE data and then turn it over to our partners. At MDE, we support several key high school programs that help students earn college credits and, in some cases, industry-recognized certifications. These include career and technical education, early middle college, advanced placement, and dual enrollment. All of these programs give students the opportunity to receive college credits, and both career and technical education and early middle college also offer pathways to earn valuable certifications. Here is a quick snapshot of the progress made in expanding student participation across these programs. Each area shows strong, steady growth. We'll bring you updated numbers in a presentation later this year. But this overview highlights both the need for these opportunities and the students' continued interest in pursuing them. Now I'd like to turn it over to our partners to share the work MyLeap is doing in this area.
Well, good afternoon. I am very happy to be here and thank you for the opportunity to speak with each one of you today. I'm joined by Sarah Serpicki, the Deputy Director of MyLeap's Office of Higher Education. This afternoon, we're going to be sharing information on our joint effort to increase the percentage of Michigan adults with a post-secondary credential. We're really happy about this goal because we know that it's going to ensure Michiganders have the knowledge, the skills, and the opportunities to really build fulfilling lives and ensure that our state has the talent that it needs, that we can compete as a state, we can grow as a state, and we can prosper as a state. As we shared during our presentation of Goal 1, MyLeap and MDE are bringing distinct roles, but very connected to the responsibilities of Michigan's education continuum. We discuss the issues, plan together, and act together to ensure that student success is across the continuum during our monthly meetings that we just heard was alluded to, and any other critical interactions that we need to have. We are truly working as partners. Our work continues to connect for Michiganders' success and economic vitality. We're so happy that we've been making meaningful progress to the state's 60 by 30 goal. As you see here, the attainment rate has increased from 45% to 51.8%. And this progress really represents more than just numbers. It's really thousands of Michiganders who are better positioned to pursue a career, support their families, and contribute to their communities. The connection between education and economic opportunity is clear. As the slide illustrates, we know that the median wages generally increase at every level of educational attainment, from a high school diploma to a certificate, associate degree, a bachelor's degree, and beyond. Earning a credential, as we know, means access to a higher wage career, greater economic stability, and more options of economic success throughout a person's life. When more Michiganders earn credentials, families become more economically secure, children have more stable home lives, and employers gain access to the skilled talent that they need. We keep sharing, and I am going to say once again that more than 90% of the occupations included in Michigan's Hot 50 job outlook through 2032 require some sort of post-secondary education or training opportunities. Most importantly, obtaining a post-secondary credential does not mean only receiving a traditional 4-year bachelor's degree. It includes industry-recognized certificates, apprenticeships, and associate degrees. Our responsibility is to support every Michigander in identifying a career path, a career path that matches their goals and skill levels, to give them the opportunity to build a ladder of success with credentials that opens more doors to economic success. Looking at our college enrollment, we see that a little over half our children are choosing to attend after they leave high school. We also see that more women than men continue to enroll and complete a credential. For the high school class of 2025, 55,570 students, or 54.6%, enrolled in college within 6 months of graduation. And we see 61.3% of women enrolled within that 6 months, compared to 47.9% of men. We also see, when we look at these numbers by race and ethnicity, that we still have persistent gaps, attending and then completing. We know that dual enrollment is an important strategy to expanding college access to all Michiganders. Research shows that students who earn college credit in high school are more likely to enroll in college and complete a credential. Yet, here in Michigan, only 7% of Michigan students participated in dual enrollment during the 23-24 school year, which is well below our other Midwestern states. This past year, I had the opportunity to chair the dual enrollment task force that brought together leaders from K through 12, higher ed, and the state. We looked at and examined access, funding, alignment, and oversight. Some of the task force report recommendations that you will be seeing soon are one, to create sustainable funding that can reimburse school districts for dual enrollment costs, better course transferability guidance, and developing an early college credit strategy, having better data collection and longitudinal tracking and reporting systems that establish clear definitions and reporting requirements, standardizing across the state communications to our parents about the benefits of taking early college credit, determining a multiple measures approach for student eligibility, and to expand the definition of eligible charges to prioritize reimbursements for students in school districts with higher concentrations of poverty, including districts in higher opportunity index bands under Section 31A of the State School Aid Act, and for students participating in in-person, on-campus dual enrollment in rural and remote areas. We are very pleased with these recommendations, and MyLeap is very excited about working with MDE to ensure that these changes occur. The legislature, I am also pleased to share, has made a new bipartisan investment in dual enrollment. They have provided this year $40 million in the fiscal year 2027 budget. Those funds give Michigan an important opportunity to begin removing those barriers and increasing that rate from 7% of students to much, much more, bringing great college success for our graduating high school seniors. Focus on men has also been a really important topic within the last year. As you saw in the previous enrollment data, men continue to fall behind in our education systems here in Michigan. The data clearly shows that in kindergarten, there is a 14% gap in school readiness between males and females. In K through 12, our males are 3 times more likely to get expelled. And in college, males are less likely, as we've already said, to enroll in college and to gain a credential. And finally, one of the biggest motivators is that 14% of Michigan men who are not disabled are not in school and are not working. That is a critical statistic that we have to change. So under the executive directive that our governor has given us, we began really launching Moving Michigan Males Forward, which convenes partners and educators to examine the data and identify opportunities for action. We've held focus groups across the state to hear directly from men about their educational experiences, their motivations, and their barriers. In April, we hosted the My Kickoff, which brought 1,000 male high school juniors and seniors from across Michigan to Ford Field for a hands-on college and career experience. And the next phase of that will be in the fall, having regional My Kickoff events for male high school 9th and 10th graders that will be looking at connecting with young men with creating career pathways in their own communities and working with their own community colleges and universities. And finally, we have an actionable white paper that will be distributed in the fall as well to culminate this topic. So as we really look at the data and we understand our progress, we know that there's gaps. We know that we are pushing forward. And we recognize that we have to do more in order to prepare our seniors But it doesn't start just at the 12th grade. It starts back at preschool, and it follows all the way through to create a path so that they have an educational journey that leads to a post-secondary credential. I'm so happy now to turn it over to Sarah Sherpicki, who's going to discuss how MyLeap's programs and scholarships are supporting our learners throughout the journey to attend post-secondary.
Well, thank you, Dr. Beverly, and thank you so much to this board. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Appreciate the invitation. So in the Office of Higher Education, our work, like that of any agency, might be divided up based on sort of the appropriations and programs that get assigned to us in policy. But we attempt to bring a single unifying framework across those programs and projects. That framework is based on understanding that while student journeys may look wildly different, they do follow the same basic steps that you can see here. Our work will only be successful in producing great outcomes for Michiganders if we ensure that we plan around that student journey and that the barriers that students might experience at different steps along that journey. In other words, our work is about more than creating affordability for students, though that's the biggest part of our budget. It's also helping to create the conditions and incentivize the changes that will help students find the right pathway for them, find that opportunity, enroll, persist, and complete, and then to make sure that those completions are aligned with opportunities in the labor market to earn a good wage and have access to opportunity. So what you'll see is that our work is organized into 4 corresponding pillars that align with the steps on a student journey. What you're seeing here on this slide is essentially a logic model for our work and how we create change in a decentralized higher education system. While I'm not going to go too deeply into pillars 3 and 4 on this, we did want you to be able to at least see the full context, and I'll spend the most time talking about our work under pillars 1 and 2, our affordability investments, and our outreach and engagement. So Michigan has basically doubled the uptake of state financial aid in the past, since Governor Whitmer's since the beginning of her term. And that's due to some of our signature programs that you'll be a little bit familiar with most likely, but that I'm delighted to go over today. And at the heart of our work, these affordability investments really put post-secondary pathways within reach for students. So first, of course, our real flagship program, the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. The Michigan Achievement Scholarship in some ways is a umbrella name for 3 different programs. The Achievement Scholarship at our universities, which provides aid of up to $5,500 a year for students attending a bachelor's degree program. The Community College Guarantee, which covers tuition and mandatory fees for students attending community college. Both of those require full-time enrollment. And then the Skills Scholarship, which provides up to $2,000 a year for 2 years for students to enroll in eligible training programs at community colleges or some proprietary training programs. So that's what we mean when we say all of those programs, we're creating a pathway for every student with these programs. Michigan Reconnect, you can see the numbers there. That's again, our flagship program for adults. Covers tuition and fees for Michigan adults who don't yet have an associate degree to attend one of Michigan's community or tribal colleges. We have almost 20,000 completions at this point, primarily associate degrees. Some of those are certificates as well. And the exciting news with Michigan Reconnect is while it originally started for adults 25 and up, after a temporary expansion that ended, we were delighted in the FY27 budget to see that the age of eligibility for Reconnect has been lowered to 21 on a more permanent basis. And that obviously really helps as students, the earlier if they get disconnected, the earlier we can reconnect them to education, the more successful they're likely to be. Then the Tuition Incentive Program, a long-standing program that supports some of our most low-income students. And so the TIP is available for students who have been eligible for or who've been receiving Medicaid for at least 2 years over a 36-month period between the ages of 9 and the end of high school. And so we can kind of predict who those students are going to be and really do a lot of outreach to them to make sure that they are eligible. Interestingly, TIP students, not only is TIP helping students enroll, we're seeing that TIP students, when you compare them to peers, similar sort of socioeconomic status, are actually staying enrolled longer and achieving success at higher rates. So this is an important piece of evidence that this financial aid really makes a difference, not only in helping people make the choice to go to college, but to stay. The other interesting thing about TIP is that it has really grown with Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So TIP doesn't require an additional application. If students are sort of encouraged to do the FAFSA because they're excited to participate in Michigan Achievement, which they've now heard about because of how many times we tell them about it, if they then are eligible for TIP, they find out and they're able to take advantage of it. And so we know that by sort of stacking this financial aid, we're really making opportunities available for our students with the greatest need. And then, of course, you're probably well aware of the My Future Educator Fellowship and Stipend. So for college juniors and above who are enrolled in an eligible educator prep program, a program that's been approved by this body, and who make a commitment to teach in Michigan for 3 to 5 years, depending on how much of the scholarship they utilize, they receive up to $10,000 a year in the fellowship, and the stipend helps them choose to participate in their student teaching and stay enrolled in, by covering some of their costs. And so you can see what's also really exciting is that, again, it's not only helping people complete education, but we're seeing really good outcomes in terms of them choosing to fulfill the commitment and become teachers in Michigan. So Dr. Beverly showed you some data earlier that show us that while I am extremely proud of the outreach and engagement work that we've done, this is an area where we really are pushing ourselves to keep innovating and building new strategies and relationships, because not every young person in Michigan knows yet that we're putting this post-secondary opportunity within their grasp. They're maybe not receiving the exact right message from exactly the right messenger yet. And so I'm going to share some of the things that we're doing. And I think it's created great result. And I think we're going to keep working really hard in this area. So first, we have really significant, very broad statewide marketing campaigns that reach students and families where they are. You've probably seen the billboards, and if you have high school age kids, you've probably also gotten ads in your social media feed. So we're trying to let students know that these 3 different pathways exist for the Achievement Scholarship, and there is one that can fit them and their interests. Through these campaigns, we reached almost 3 million Michiganders through the Michigan Achievement Scholarship campaign last year, and over 1.5 million adults through the Michigan Reconnect campaign. We also, as I said, we're really trying to innovate here. And so we're really looking at how do we make sure that students not only have heard of the scholarship, but get the support they need to engage and navigate that state financial aid. So we have a student portal for financial aid, which serves as a one-stop hub where students can see what aid they qualify for, track their FAFSA status, and even estimate state award amounts and track like what further documentation might they need to provide in order to keep track of things. It helps students feel informed and confident enough that they can make choices. This year, we modernized the portal to make it easier to use and more in line with what students expect today from online resources, and are having really excellent feedback from that project. And we believe it really will lead to increases in scholarship uptake. We send tip letters to middle and high school students and their families if those students are likely to be tip eligible, creating early college awareness and momentum. This year we sent letters to almost 700,000 students. We hosted 70 webinars this year to make financial aid easier to navigate, and those webinars really reached over 8,000 individuals. Michigan Reconnect has navigators that help students complete their FAFSA, apply, register, sometimes even choose courses or find resources that they need in order to enroll, and then maintain their scholarship. This year, our navigators participated in more than 183 campus and community events. They staffed 200 virtual drop-in office hours for Reconnect applicants. They held 40 orientations for more than 2,300 Reconnectors. They held almost 7,000 video and phone appointments with applicants and students. Our customer care center, a call-in center, a call-in email, gives students and families a direct point of contact throughout the financial aid process with a 99% answer rate and an email inquiry response within 24 hours. We're there whenever their questions about state financial aid arise. In 2024-25, we launched Senior Farewell Playbook toolkits with both sort of tangible resources like posters and virtual resources that we sent to 1,000 public high schools across Michigan. And we monthly email digital resources to more than 3,000 high school counselors. These help promote FAFSA completion, scholarship awareness, and help keep students moving. What do they need to be thinking about in terms of the college application and enrollment process? We also know that while we need to hit a great scale here, we need to reach every student, we also need to help make sure that the information they receive is personalized. And like I said, that we're getting the right message, that we are equipping the right messengers with the right messages. We can't one-on-one have all of those conversations, so we also really try to equip people who are close to students, like counselors, with the information that they need in order to be supportive and help students make informed choices. This is why we do things like provide counselor trainings and as well as some of the tools that we discussed on the previous slide. So I do want to take 1 minute to focus on FAFSA completion because that's another area where, like, we always say the students are with you now and we hope they'll be with us in the future. So it's the same students. And we know that FAFSA completion is a key strategy for increasing enrollment, particularly among low-income students. And so many of our programs don't require an application. And so FAFSA is it. FAFSA unlocks the doors for students. The Universal FAFSA Challenge launched in 2025. We've now issued 2 rounds of grants to districts that adopt a Universal FAFSA Challenge Universal FAFSA policy, and we were funded to do this again in fiscal year 27. So the way that works is that the district boards tell us that they intend to do this. We're able to issue grant dollars to those districts. The boards adopt a policy that requires a FAFSA completion for high school graduation, and then they're able to spend the grant dollars, which are significant, on activities that support FAFSA completion. You can see this feels like it has been really effective. We're still collecting data from year 2, but in actually increasing FAFSA completion. And of course, there is an opportunity for students to opt out of completing the FAFSA, and as long as they've met all other graduation requirements, they are still able to graduate high school. So it puts a focus on FAFSA in a way that the policy is designed to really not penalize anybody. And so this is an area where we're continuing to look at how do we reach new districts that haven't participated so far and get them participating this year. It provides a lot of resources for districts to increase their FAFSA completion rates. Okay, so this is the part I said I'm going to go into a lot less detail on to keep on schedule here. So this is pillar 3 of our work, our student success strategies. So we know that once students enroll, we need to be increasing the chances that they are going to graduate from our colleges and universities and our private training our proprietary training programs. And so success means like really getting people all the way across the line, helping our colleges and universities adopt strategies that research show are helpful and impactful in helping students complete. The largest program that we have had to make to incentivize this type of change has been our student success grants. We have issued over $40 million over the last couple of years in a few different categories of grant to our colleges and universities. So our college success grants are about adopting evidence-based strategies for increasing student graduation. Our barrier removal grants are about removing institutional barriers to completion for students that are struggling with basic needs. That can be like emergency grant programs or additional housing support. It also includes some aid that can be used directly for students who are struggling to re-enroll because they have a $300 tuition bill that they aren't able to cover with their financial aid. And then our Reconnect Community Action Grants that allow colleges and community-based partners to work together to increase the conversion rate of Reconnect applicants and help them enroll. So these grants were like a year to 2 years into, and look forward to reporting out on like what actually happened, and what did we see these campuses adopt. But I do believe this has really helped Michigan's colleges focus and make investments that can help lead to transformation for the students who need that. We also have a strong focus on the unmet basic needs of college students. So somewhere between 30 and 50% of Michigan students across sectors, so at our community colleges and our universities, struggle with some form of basic needs insecurity. And this obviously gets really in the way of their completion. And so whether that's housing, food, mental health, physical health, we've had a strong focus on this. This isn't something we've really had a lot of state investment on, but we raised some philanthropic dollars to run a task force on the basic needs of students to really understand that landscape in Michigan. So we put out, as the result of our task force work and hiring the Hope Center from Temple University, our Barriers to Bridges report last year, which makes 12 recommendations for policy and administrative change to increase the ability of Michigan students who have basic needs and security to complete. That's also informed some of our hunger-free campus designs and some of the barrier removal grants that I talked about. We now have additional philanthropic funding to create a 2-year implementation initiative that some of the federal policy changes have made even more important in terms of SNAP and Medicaid eligibility. Finally, strengthening workforce alignment. This is the most sort of nascent set of our work, but really making sure that the credentials that we are funding in Michigan are helping students be ready for jobs that are needed, that are in demand, and that pay a good wage. We want to make sure that the investment that students make and or that the state makes is matched with real opportunity on the other end of that. We have worked really closely with the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, or LEO, to be partners in the Workforce Pell implementation. So Workforce Pell, the federal policy change this year that is creating a new source of funding for short-term credentials. And so credentials at Pell-eligible institutions that were not previously the right length now are eligible for short-term Pell. States have a lot of work to do, though, in figuring out which programs can be eligible. The federal government has sort of placed that role with the states and the state workforce board primarily. And our focus has really been on making sure that our colleges, universities, and training providers sort of know how to participate so that we can make this opportunity as available as possible to Michigan students. And that we're really emphasizing stackability of those credentials so that those credentials help lead not only to a job today, but additional educational opportunities tomorrow. So while MyLeap and the Office of Education are still new, we're not quite 2 years old, I hope you can see that we are making really powerful strides to bring together the work that we are doing in a cohesive strategy that will benefit all Michiganders and keep us accelerating progress towards the 60 by 30 goal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation and the partnership. The board members, do you have any questions or comments? Ms. Lipton?
Thank you so much. This is always one of my favorite presentations. I know I've mentioned it around this board table before. The post-secondary sort of ecosystem is something that I've been very, very interested and involved in since I left the legislature. And I think that in a relatively short period of time, You've really, really sort of leaned into this sort of issue, and I think the results are really, really just rich and promising, and so kudos. And thank you for that. One of the questions I have is, going back to the slide where we talked about, I believe it was sort of toward the middle of the presentation, where we talked about, you mentioned that we're at 7%, and as a state, where should we be? If 7% is sort of too low, and I don't see numbers on the slides, but we talked about, I think, yeah, I'm gonna try to find which slide, because they're not numbered.
Oh,
Um,
dual enrollment.
Yes, the dual enrollment slide.
It says, right, it doesn't have a number, but yes, the slide, it's called Dual Enrollment Task Force. And it says, only 7% of Michigan students took dual enrollment courses in 23-24, well below any other Midwestern state. So if 7% is not what we want, do we know what we want to at least aspire to? And I don't know if this is,
You go ahead.
what would be a good,
So the task force asked that question, and in some ways declined to provide an immediate answer, because I think, for an interesting reason, that we really need to talk about all early credit opportunities and a strategy for all of those early credit opportunities kind of together as one strategy. So dual enrollment isn't the right opportunity for every student, but every student should have the opportunity for dual enrollment or CTE or early middle college or AP or IB. And so the task force expressed a desire for another conversation that would attempt to say the goal needs to be set in the context of creating early credit opportunities for everyone, and make that dual enrollment goal sort of add up to that. Yeah, as opposed to saying, let's set sort of an arbitrary number for dual enrollment. I don't know if you want to expand, but that was where the task force landed.
makes a lot of sense, just
Right,
based on.
and I was just
yeah.
gonna add, the other thing is looking at expanding the data and how we track the data and the longitudinal data, because right now we're not doing that at all. So we really have to have more emphasis on that so that we can, see that we're making some success with our outcomes.
Maybe as we're redoing and rethinking our state strategic plan around this board table, there may be some thought to perhaps sort of expanding, instead of, expanding, CTE, maybe we talk about something like expanding some sort of post-secondary touch point for all students, or something like that. And the CTE would be one component of that. Okay, interesting, thank you. Okay, you mentioned about the lowering the age of Michigan Reconnect to 21, which is something that the Statewide Association of Promise Zones, we advocated for a long time, because the longest promise zone by state statute can go out to 6 years from high school graduation. Some don't go out to 6 years, but we have that capacity. So there was always a little bit of a gap. If a promise zone could go to, let's say, 2022, and then Michigan Reconnect, there was a 3-year gap of how do you engage those students. So you said so has that been made you said that's been made permanent in statute to 21?
It has not been made permanent in statute, but it is an ongoing budget item. And so the budget was increased as an ongoing item. And so we still would love to see it in statute, but it's as permanent as any ongoing budget item is. Yeah.
statewide association of promise zones, we are standing at the ready to continue to advocate for that lowering of the age.
Right, and that's been one of the policies that we have been pushing for the last 2.5 years to have that codified.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I really, really applaud you for digging into is the, sort of dealing with the full scope of economic barriers. The old model was, you sort of deal with tuition and fees and you got the whole package. But at least insofar as the work that we're doing for 12 years now, that those additional costs of attendance are as challenging for a student as the initial, tuition. And sometimes they're even more because then it's a heartbreaking situation where the student is starting and then something like food insecurity or housing or transportation or medical or childcare causes them to have to stop out. And that's really, really hard. So thank you um, for dealing with that issue. It's an ongoing issue. One of the things that we advocated for was a change in the promise zone statute to allow for the dollars that we receive. At first, we were just restricted to tuition and mandatory fees. And we advocated for the statute to be amended to allow for the full cost of attendance. And that's really, really helped our work. One of the things that I will say that we've learned is that in dealing with the higher eds, particularly the financial aid directors, is that schools that give their own awards, oftentimes, unless we specify that our dollars are to be used for up to the full cost of attendance, financial aid directors who are sort of, like little islands unto themselves, they will actually displace their own scholarship award. And so that's just something to, yeah, so oftentimes, because universities will oftentimes have their own financial aid policies, they will, unless it is specified up front that these dollars are to be used for up to the full cost of attendance, they will oftentimes, once they learn that a student has, let's say, a promise zone scholarship, they'll then take away an institutional scholarship that the student has. And so I'm just sort of throwing that out there. I know you're aware of the problem. I understand that they're trying to be good stewards of their dollars, but it does, that kind of confusion about tuition, fees, and additional costs of attendance, and being sensitive to that whole continuum being something that we need to think about
Right.
is really, really important.
And for financial aid directors, it's a balancing act. Every student is different.
Yes.
Every situation is different. And they have to look individually to see what they can do to max out the award. And unfortunately, every little award is different with all of what everybody is saying, what they want done. So, yes, it can be an issue at trying to put it all together. I think the financial aid directors that I've worked with really understand the necessity of trying to get all the money out to the students. But we have to look at, as a state, how we're writing those things up so that we can make it easier to fit.
Yes, for them.
For the individual situations. And so I agree totally that that's something that we need to do because they do really want to get the money out to the students.
Yes, exactly, absolutely. And then finally, just a little shameless plug for things that we've done in our promise zones is utilize college access advisors to work in partnership with guidance counselors
Right.
to help high school students and families navigate FAFSA, which is, it can be really, really a barrier
Right.
for families. And also really using post-secondary success coaches and navigators built into our programs to be those advocates for families and students, oftentimes who are just trying to navigate. It can be a very, very daunting process when you're dealing with a financial aid office and officer. So thank you again for the work that you do. I'm gonna grab some water real quick.
Senator Bullock.
Well, so because I talked to Ms. Lipton about this a lot, I don't know if everybody understood, everybody listening, but I'll give an example of child gets Promise Zone, fills out the FAFSA, the application, and the school, Michigan Local University B, gives them $16,000 for the next 4 years, but because the Promise Zone school scholarship only pays for school and not housing, that kid can now use those dollars if that zone allows it, but there are zones that it's the last dollar, so it goes into the zone price. And now the kid has no money, and the family that is already on hardship is gonna have to struggle to get that kid housing in that city at that Michigan Local University B. And as a parent, they had 3 kids that were eligible for a Promise.
Yes.
1 went out of state, 2 stayed here, but negotiation skills were good from their father. However, I saw the other kids
Yeah.
struggling,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't have been that way. So that's,
Right.
how do we get all the zones to, or do we get the state to write it, or is it just a policy change? Is it statute or is it a policy change? Universally across the zone should operate in a manner.
So with the Promise Zones, those are written by the board. First, please unlock your phone. Governing board of the Promise Zone.
Yes.
And so they're the ones stipulating last dollar. And that is how it has to be used when they stipulate that.
But also every school technically, like the zone may only be for community college, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But the state universities may take them, but they won't add. Then there's a negotiation that needs to take place
Right.
with that state institution or the higher institutions that aren't necessarily a part of the zone promise conversation. They're not automatically.
Right. I agree, with what you're saying, but that regional board needs to be saying that we want to make flexibility with our dollars.
Figure out a universal state of Michigan zone. In addition, we talk about the brain drain in kids that go away. So I'm eligible for a Promise Zone. I leave and go somewhere else. I want to try to go to a HBCU in another state because we don't have any.
Right.
And I decide I want to come home, but I'm an eligible zone student. If I'd have stayed home, I'd have got the Promise.
Right.
But now that I'm back, I'm not eligible for that, which is another conversation I hope that we're
Right.
trying
If
to
they
have.
changed their status, their status to be in state where they went. Because if they were still out of state with Michigan, and it's within the, year, 2 years?
For achievement, yeah.
Right, they should be, I'm not talking promise, I'm talking achievement. They should be okay.
Yeah, experience was they can come back home and go to community college, but not attend one of the 4-year institutions. But so I think there are more conversations to be had, and I learned a lot from Member Lipton about all of these rules and which board and which region, and So, so I'm an advocate on, like, if a kid wants to try go out of state and come back, why aren't we advocating to get them back by incentivizing that you still are eligible
Right.
to get what you would have when you left?
And I think I'm just saying the key is when they went, did they go and become in-state in that other state? Or did they?
Negotiated thing too, like scholarships are in state. So if I go to school in Mississippi on scholarship, it's really an in-state rate. So it shouldn't matter.
Can I ask a question, just to clarify everything you
okay.
guys?
Okay, Ms. Schneider, go ahead. And then Ms. Stewart.
Okay.
Yeah, since
Is there a timing thing here? Because it would appear that if they're all of the other parts, why can't the universities get all of the other parts and pieces and the promise be the last answer on behalf of that student? So it's up to the full amount of tuition, as opposed to the promise is the first and then all of the other pieces then get reconfigured. Why is it not such that, you know, the federal government and the other pieces are engaged first, and this is where you're currently at, and if you're promise zone eligible and it's up to the full cost of tuition, the timing would then say that the promise zone is the last check that comes in.
That's generally how it's done. You have more state programs saying they want to be the last dollar. I will say that. And they want that because they want to make sure that the federal financial aid is expended first. And
So-
then that gives less dollars for the state to have to give.
Yeah.
So that is really how it's done. But if you have the achievement saying last dollar and the promise saying last dollar, and
Yeah.
I don't know, the workforce Pell may be saying last dollar, I don't know how that's
It's a
coming.
little trick bag, and I think Sister Lipton or Ms. Beverly would be more like, I think it's a different discussion or training we should have on how the zones and last dollars and
Yeah.
FAFSA are all applied to students.
Order, yeah. That is because it
Just
sounds
in
like it's an
general.
order issue, and the last dollar
It
is
is,
the,
and it's how it's been written for the dollars
okay.
to be expended.
And it's also about whether each scholarship sets its own rules about whether they cover just tuition and fees or also other costs of attendance. And so there's been an expansion of promise zones moving towards those other costs because of the increases in state aid. So then the promise zones are like, oh, okay, then we can cover some of those other costs. I just want to acknowledge partly through the advocacy and partnership with the Michigan College Access Network, which stays very close to the promise zones. Both this year and last year, we've provided refinements to the guidance we provide about how to stack the state financial aid to try to make it make sense. Each promise zone does set its own rules, and so we don't have control over all of those, but we've tried to write it in the most student-friendly way possible. And MCAN will say, here's a suggestion, from the field. So, I mean, great partners, and they have specifically lifted up how we can design just our guidance, to be compliant with our policy and try to make the most resources available for students who need it.
Right.
And I think, and also, if I'm correct, all of the zones are funded differently.
Okay.
Like, not all, but there are different funding. It could be from the taxes, it could be from other, so.
And from one year to the next, the rules on how each specific grant or dollar is expended, even at the federal level and the promise zone at the regional level, is different. Are the dates that you have to change the rules of how it's applied?
Oh, it's fairly consistent. There's sometimes, Michigan Reconnect is new or a rule changes, but people try to be pretty consistent, or these entities are pretty consistent. And the federal support, the Pell support is pretty consistent.
So my statements were just about lifting up to, let's find
I just wanted to say something real quick about one of your points. And I only know this because I'm going through it right now. For out-of-state students. So I'm a PhD student in a hybrid program out of state. And when you apply for FAFSA, Michigan does a really great job
of sending you an email and letting you know all of the money that you could get if you stay in state. So,
Because that's what we want, yes.
that is amazing, I think. So that is a good way to attract students to come back.
Dr. Pritchett?
Thank you. I'm going to get us off the money part just a little bit. My interaction with high school students, both when I was in the field and now I'm out of the field, but still interact with high school students, two things. One is sometimes there's a disconnect with them understanding dual enrollment. They take the dual enrollment class automatically assuming that that class is going to count for college.
Right.
And I go to our college partners and say, you know, there needs to be better communication on that because they get it in their head. And then there's that level of disappointment of, oh, I thought that math class that I was taking, whether it's hybrid or whether they actually were able to attend the university, was going to count. And then we find out it didn't. Same thing with some AP classes. Student can get a 4 or 5 on their test. Doesn't mean the university is going to necessarily, they'll accept it possibly,
Right.
but maybe not in the column. So I realize you can't do anything about that, but I do know that's a level of frustration also with students and families who are down to counting pennies, you know, okay, can we afford this? And then find out, oh, that class isn't going to count.
And so that was a topic with the dual enrollment task force. And so that is one of the recommendations, that we have better guidance for those types of situations so students clearly understand which classes will be transferable or not. So that really did come out.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
We also, well, we cannot mandate that universities do this.
I do believe we can support them in choosing to have policies that will make it easier for students. And so we lead a set of work around improving transfer success in Michigan, and that has to include credit, like success and credit that students have earned while they're in high school. And so, you know, I think this is an area that is ripe for partnership between MDE and MyLeap, is to help make sure that we're doing whatever we can to make sure that students don't feel that disappointment if their credits don't transfer.
Dr. Robinson?
Yeah, just a quick comment and a question. And maybe the comment is more for the legislature, perhaps. I look at this Michigan Reconnect program, and I think if that budget money isn't in the budget permanently, it's not going to help to the extent that it could, because families and kids don't plan on 1 year of college at a time, right? That's like buying one piece of bread for a sandwich. I mean, they're looking at either 2 years or 4 years if they're going to go to school or more. And so having 1 year of funding isn't really the carrot that we're looking for at the end of the stick. So if anyone from the legislature is listening, when you put that money in the budget, unless you make it a permanent expenditure, it's not going to have the impact that you hope it's going to have. And then I didn't know that the student teacher stipends were a MyLeap program.
Yes.
Oh.
Because we administer financial aid, so we've got all the systems to just make that work. So, yes.
Okay. I just comment to appreciate, Dr. Pugh.
I just want to get clarification. I think it's on page 6, slide number 12. When we looked at the Michigan college enrollment and completion rates, those last 2 columns, I just want to get clarity on those. I think I know what they are. One is that from graduation to high school graduation to bachelor? And then the second one is once enrolled, the percentage that are completing?
Exactly.
Okay. And then, and board member Lipton brought up a question, and it's come up a couple of times, and I just want to note that we've seen our highest enrollments in CTE and AP because of the push that we've done in providing a menu of opportunities for our students. In addition to dual enrollment, we're also promoting middle college or early college. So, but we have seen increases across the board because of the push that Dr. Rice began some years ago, sending those letters out as a result of assessment and testing results.
I just comment too, we saw the national data came out too, that if students take dual enrollment, not only they're more likely to graduate, but to go on to higher ed and get a higher education degree. When I was in Escanaba last week for it's the Upper Administrative Conference annual, but they have higher ed in partnership. And it's an ability to kind of dialogue with higher ed and with superintendents. And obviously the UP has different challenges, but I would say that I think what we got to promote as well is more in-depth communication and partnerships between local superintendents and college presidents. I could just speak to very proud of the work we did in Dearborn, where we had at the peak 3,800 students, taking dual enrollment classes, which is almost about 60% of our high school students. And we had 3 different programs: early college, which we had buildings right on the college campus. We had a collegiate academy where you could take it would take 5 years, but you would get your associate's degree, or you could take dual enrollment. And the nice thing, and I'll just give credit to now Western Michigan President Russ Cavaluna, who was the president, worked in partnership, is that he did negotiate. So we had a direct agreement with Henry Ford College, but then he negotiated with 4-year degree programs to fully transfer over those associates so that there wasn't even a question. Now, it wasn't with every institution, but I think he had about 5 4-year degree institutions that were fully transferable, and therefore those credits would count. So I think if we can continue to work together in partnership with superintendents and college presidents and linking that, these possibilities are endless. And again, appreciate the work you're doing in our monthly meetings and the partnership and working with students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next we're going to pivot. Item J is a presentation on Michigan's Strategic Education Plan Goal 8, Fiscal Year Budget 27 overview. And we have Dr. Diane Golzinski, Deputy Superintendent, coming back with Division of Business Health and Library Services, and Mr. Spencer Simmons, Director, Office of Financial Management. This is an informational presentation, and to them.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Board. Glad to be here to talk about the fiscal year 2027 budget, and glad to be here before October. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. So, as always, we present the budget in light of the 8 goals of our strategic education plan, and we will start with the state school aid budget. So as you know, we are at $10,300 per pupil in our target foundation allowance. This amount is the highest amount that we have had in recent years, as you can see by the graph on the board. We also have a new weighted pupil membership amount. So this is brand new for fiscal year 27. What happened in the past was that we had 2 categorical pupil membership pieces, one for English learners, one for at-risk. Those were combined into Section 22B. Those will now be rolled up as a part of the per pupil amount. Districts will get on their monthly state aid report, they will get it broken out so they'll know exactly how much goes to each of those students, so they know how much to really focus in for those students. But the idea is that we're weighting it the way that the School Finance Research Collaborative really wanted us to focus in on those students. $1.63 billion in funding under the weighted pupil membership. Another key piece of this to know is that some of this language has now been codified into the school code. So it's not just in budget language, but it has been codified into the school code. Also, under Goal 8, we have a $5.1 million increase for students with disabilities, a $1.3 million increase for students in rural and isolated districts, And $125 million remains for school transportation. So this is the same amount that we've seen over the last few years. The key piece to this is that $125 million drains that school transportation fund. So there will be no funding left in that school transportation fund unless a future deposit is made for transportation in future budget years by future governors and legislators. There's also $6.1 million for partnership districts. So you may remember that our partnership districts had an influx of one-time funding. It was $36 million over 3 years to really support those partnership districts. That funding was one-time funding. That funding has now ended, and we're back to the original $6.1 million per year to support our partnership districts.
Under goal number 7, there's $25 million to support My Future Educator Fellowship Program. That $25 million is the exact same as the amount that is allocated in 2026. Under Section 27B, Grow Your Own, there was a reduction in 2027 from the amount that was allocated in 2026 of $70 million. That results in a $45 million decrease. Under My Future Educator Stipends, there is an increase of $7 million from the amount allocated in FY26 of $50 million. There's $150 million allocated for educator compensation. The purpose of this is sort of per pupil payments to increase the educator compensation that's allocated to them.
Under Goal 3, we have another $202 million for the Michigan School Meals Program. This continues the ability to feed all students for free. There is $2 million in general fund to include non-public schools. It does open up the opportunity for an additional 56 non-public schools to qualify. So 43 last year, an additional 56 this year. $2 million for those schools. $4 million and 10 cents a meal. You may remember in FY26, 10 cents a meal went away. It is now back in FY27. That's the program that really supports our local farmers in providing local products in those Michigan meals. $310 million for our favorite section, Section 31AA. That is the mental health and school safety funding. You may remember last year that included a lot of language that had waiving of rights, and there was lawsuits and all kinds of information in the media around Section 31AA. This year, the legislature really modified this section. This section now has a very specific amount for mental health per pupil and a very specific amount per pupil for school safety. That waiver language remains, but it is only for the school safety funding. It does not relate to the mental health funding. So that will be interesting to see this year what our local districts think about that.
Under goal number 2, improving early literacy achievement, there is $52.5 million for early literacy teacher coaches. The purpose or the goal of this is to increase the amount of literacy coaches, and this equates to 1 literacy coach per ISD. From FY26, the amount allocated was $42 million, and you're going to see that increase of the $10.5 million to bring it to the $52.5 million in FY27. Under goal number 2 again, there's $6 million in funding for literacy essentials. This is to fund the new mandate in the revised school code for all K through 5 educators who teach reading that will be able to receive this particular training. There's also letters. The amount allocated for letters has increased exponentially. From FY26, it was at $10 million. It's increased to $75 million. $65 million increase, or a 650% increase from FY26.
For Goal 1, $700 million for Great Start Readiness, or GSRP. Our friends at MyLeap administer that particular program. That's an 11.8% increase over FY26. There is a new $30 million line item under Section 32P. This is for a variety of different early learning partnerships. and $26.1 million in funding for early on.
Under goal number 4, expanding learning opportunity, some of these line items were actually highlighted earlier in a previous presentation. Under the CTE programming, there's $45.9 million, which is an increase of $4.25 million from FY26. There's also $9.2 million in support of CTE middle college program. From FY26, it's over $852,000 increase. In addition, under expanding learning opportunities, there's $40 million for dual enrollment. This was discussed in the previous presentation. However, this is to reimburse districts in opportunity index bands 4, 5, and 6 for student enrollment at eligible post-secondary institutions. There's $900,000 to support funding in hospitality and tourism and CTE grants. There's $9 million in one-time funding to support payments to districts and ISDs to improve educational outcomes in mathematics. There's $50 million one time to implement high-impact tutoring programs through eligible tutoring programs in eligible districts, as well as Section 27T. This particular section is for educator on loan. And I would like to thank all departments, ed orgs, legislators that helped our department to get this to go through. This took a lot of work, but everyone was focused on getting this to go through, and this was a success. In FY26, the amount of state aid funding to support higher education in community colleges was at $1.3 billion. That amount has increased for FY27 by $400 million for a new total of $1.7 billion.
All right, moving on to the department budget. So that was the state school aid budget. If we look specifically just at the department budget, which really funds the staff here at the department, which plays out all of those programs that you just heard about, we are at 571.5 full-time positions. That is an additional 3 full-time positions to help us support the administration of the Michigan School Meals Program. What happened was our Office of Nutrition Services is 100% federally funded. And what we were being told by the United States Department of Agriculture is that you cannot support a state program with federal funds. And so we really had to have state investment in staff in order to support the Michigan School Meals Program. So we expect that likely we will be in the same boat next year with 10 cents a meal, because we'll have to have state funds in order to support a state program for 10 cents a meal as well. We also saw some increases, $1 million in one-time appropriations for AI tools. AI is here. We need to be able to work with those tools and help our students be able to work effectively with those tools. An additional $375,000 in state aid for libraries, an additional $375,000 for the Michigan e-library.
The department, as were other departments throughout the state, did have reductions to our general fund dollars. There was $500,000 eliminated from the educator recruitment and retention program. There's $250,000 eliminated from the American Sign Language literacy tool development, as well as there was $250,000 in general fund reductions across 5 different departments within Michigan Department of Education. As of FY27, as of right now, the federal spending authority allocated to the Michigan Department of Education has been reduced to $100. Now, what does that mean? There are a bunch of federal grants that do come to our department, and in order to spend those grants or actually to send out grant funds, you have to have authority that can actually house the amount of funds you have in grant awards. As of right now, going into FY27, the federal authority listed is at $100. But please note the department does have a contingency plan that we have put into motion. We have submitted to our state budget office a request for increases to all of our federal lines. So by October 1st, we've been notified that those federal spending authority amounts will increase to appropriate amounts for us to initiate all grants.
Thank you. Dr. Malenko, back to you.
Thank you. It's really appreciated. Is there any comments or questions by board members? Oh, Dr. Pugh.
Thank you for that very thorough and quick presentation. You mentioned the partnership district, and I didn't record the slide. Can you tell me, I know we talked about this before, but what is that reduction by us going back to the original amount? I
So
think it's at
6.1 is what we have had in that line item.
Right.
3 years ago, we had an influx of one-time funding for
Right.
$36 million over 3 years. So it was $12 million additional each year for 3 years. But it was one-time funding. We knew it was going to go away. We didn't expect it to continue. We asked for it to continue, but there wasn't an opportunity to do
Okay,
that.
so districts didn't put like recurring
Correct.
budget items on that.
Correct.
And then if we could talk a little bit about the reduction in the MDE budget, what is that total amount? Is that 500,000 or 1 million? Okay, adding all these together.
That's correct.
Okay. I guess we just heard from My Leap, and I understand that they had an increase in budget. So I guess I want to just hear a little bit more about that.
I would have to look into that more and get you some more information on that.
Okay. I mean, it's concerning for me because we have two departments, right? Two education departments, and one's getting more, one's less. And this is the department that I'm responsible for, so I do have those questions.
Dr. Pugh, I could
there.
comment briefly
Okay.
on that, just on holistic, and I know Olivia's here, that the increases, so we get grants that we funnel through. So a lot of the money, I believe, that went to My Leap is, additional money that gets grants, that gets funneled through to districts or to low, early childhood centers or other areas. I see Olivia nodding there because we had looked at that. It wasn't FTEs, it was for grant funding that would go into these programs, like the increase for GSRP and early childhood as an example. But we could get more details on that, right, Olivia and Dr. Golson?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to.
Yeah, okay.
Board or Dr. Robinson asked about the teacher stipend grants. How long have those been with My Leap? Or I guess I don't know if that's a question for you all. That may not fit here.
Yep, I think
Okay.
since the inception, they've always been, yes.
Okay. Okay.
That's my understanding. Yep. Oh, used to be Treasury.
Okay.
Because we don't issue funding directly to students, right? We don't have those systems in place.
Okay.
So it was Treasury, then it went to My Leap.
Okay. And then it looks like the 10-cent a meal, was that reinstated?
It was.
Okay. Okay,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
good news. Okay.
Very excited.
I wrote another question, but I have no idea what it was.
What it meant?
You're good.
Yes,
Oh,
I
thank
am.
you.
Thank you.
So I just have a few comments too. I think our team at MDE worked very hard. Olivia, working with, I was sending you guys emails and in the board briefs updates, and so she was there, I think, early in the morning sometimes at the Capitol, negotiating till midnight, I think, one night. I appreciate, I know Emma Young was here in the governor's office. We did have a seat. It was Olivia during the negotiations with the two appropriation committees in the House and the Senate. And then everybody at MDE was Olivia had us ready. We were cell phones in pocket if any information was needed. I know Ross Fort had a plan when things were coming through. So it was all hands on deck here at the department when that was going down over that week. And so I appreciate that, and appreciate, we talked about the educator on loan. I know Emma Young was very influential with that as well, so appreciate that support for supporting educators with experience that could potentially come to MDE in the governor's office. And then again, the House and the Senate, which was good too, because then those recommendations went up to the final level, which was the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, and the governor's office. So, like you said, I was a local last year superintendent when that budget dragged, and so this was really, overall, really, really good budget and things to work on though. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Pritchett, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, so weighted pupil membership applies to economically disadvantaged students. and to English learners. It does not apply, at this point anyways, to special education. Special ed is still a separate category.
That's correct. That's correct. I wanted to just correct, it is beyond economically disadvantaged, it's at-risk students.
At risk,
So it's
okay.
all at-risk categories. There is intent language for special ed, but the special ed, correct, Olivia? Okay, I just wanted to double check myself, thank you. There's intent language there, but it didn't happen in this budget for the special ed. It only happened for the at-risk and the English language learners this year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you.
Next, we're going to move on to State Board President report.
First, I just want to, first, I hope everyone had an enjoyable summer because as someone mentioned, I think Dr. Robinson mentioned today, it's like summer is coming to a screeching halt, right? And it's really hard to believe that, we're approaching the beginning of another school year. And as students, families, educators, and school staff are prepared to return, I want to wish everyone across Michigan a safe, healthy, and successful start to the 2026-2027 school year. I had the privilege on August 5th to attend the Healthy Schools for Healthy Kids Summit in Washington, D.C. And that was a national gathering focused on advancing a health first agenda for America's schools. The summit was convened by Healthy Schools Network and Children's Environmental Health Network, Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, International Well Building Institute, and the American University's Center for Environmental Policy. The gathering brought together leaders from education, public health, research, policy, and other sectors to address an issue that is fundamental to our work here at the State Board of Education. And we know that children need healthy environments in order to learn and to thrive. The conversation focused on school infrastructure and modernization, indoor air quality and ventilation, environmental hazards, climate resilience, and emergency preparedness, healthy materials, and the need for greater technical assistance and investment in our nation's schools. We also heard from Senator Jack Reed about the Rebuild America School Act and from Congressman Bobby Scott about the importance of continued federal leadership and investment in our public schools. I was especially proud that the summit closed with students from Flint, Michigan, helping to issue the charge of the work ahead. And that was Clarence Ruffin and Clarissa Ruffin. There were also presentations about Flint, Michigan. Discussions about healthy schools ultimately must come back to the children who spend their days learning inside of them. And I want us to know that the work that we're doing here is not unseen. People do see what we're doing here around the infrastructure budgets and dollars that we've been able to pull, the study that we did to show the, $23 billion that are needed. People see that as a good start. The fact that we've worked to make sure that health is highlighted, mental health, that our mental health budget has increased, but that we've put health as a priority in our strategic plan. That we've worked to make sure that our Department of Health and Human Services, that our EAGLE, as well as Department of Education are working together to solve these problems. And as we continue our conversations about school infrastructure, student health, environmental conditions, and educational outcomes, we know that there is much that we can learn from the national effort as much as as well as they are learning from us. Want to quickly shift to the Special Education Committee. As has been mentioned already, we wanted to provide this opportunity for the board to act in a bipartisan way around this very critical issue of special education. So the committee has met in June and July. As you all may recall, we said June, July, August would really be for planning purposes. And September, we want to be able to hit the ground running. And so we want to thank the Michigan Department of Education staff for helping to ground our early work with an overview of special education concepts. Board member McMillan talked about that education or a special education 101 that we were able to delve into during our June meeting. And so we'll see if we can make sure that you all have access to that as well, everyone at the board table as well as the public. But concepts around federal and state requirements, oversight structures, existing bodies, and the work already underway is what we discussed and really focused on in the June meeting. In July, we're looking at how do we best collect the voice of people, whether they want to do that in writing, whether they want to do that with oral voice, or whether they want to submit a survey. We want to make sure that we are collecting the voice of as many people as possible. And so what we know is that we all started knowing that we're not starting from scratch. We verbalize that. We are aware of that. We want to keep saying that. There has already been considerable work that has been done by MDE, the Special Education Advisory Committee, families, educators, advocates, local school districts, and other organizations and partners across Michigan. So our responsibility is to understand that work and identify where gaps remain and listen carefully to people most directly affected. During our first meeting, we also began reviewing the committee's intended outputs and the purpose, potential listening tools, supports for data collection, and the calendar that will guide our work. We're already looking at how the board itself will travel across the state and where we will highlight special education among other topics that we typically discuss. But we do want to travel the state together. There will be ways that, again, we collect information through virtual settings. And then there will be some of us that may show up at in various communities. And again, there is the committee, but this whole board, we encourage the full board to participate in all of the activities that we do. We also want to make sure that it's known that all these meetings are open to the public. Our next meeting will be on August the 25th. In closing, I just want to acknowledge Board Member Snyder for bringing forward the proposed resolutions addressing several special education issues, including Senate Bill 952. We've heard from parents, the teacher training standards, accountability, and transparency. Again, these are important issues. These are reasons why we want to make sure that all of us are a part of the Special Education Committee, subcommittee, and that we're hearing from the public. And at this time, we just want to make sure that we're not recommending, and I'm not recommending that we move forward with the resolutions separately from the work of the Special Education Committee. Again, we created this bipartisan committee so that the board could take a thoughtful and comprehensive look at special education in Michigan. And that means hearing from parents, students, educators, policymakers, MDE staff, advocates, and others before determining recommendations or actions the board should take. So at this time, we do not want to preempt the voices of those very critical persons. So just letting everyone, again, can't say it enough, that we look forward to working together with everyone at the table and across the state of Michigan. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Appreciate that. So I'm going to move on next to my report and appreciate that. And some of it will overlap with what you said in partnership. Just wanted to mention that my travels had continued in different parts of Michigan. The collection of feedback on the renewal of the strategic plan continues. I know the board, we had a meeting at the study session back in May to collect feedback, and I've had individual conversations as well. Kelly Siciliani Carter, we had a meeting internally. And so all of the feedback from the different associations, the stakeholders, we've completed that section. And now I'm going to be getting some information to the board about potential ideas for renewing that plan and some changes, taking all of your feedback into consideration. We made sure. So more to come on that. Again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We're not going to rush it. Just a reminder that we were looking at potentially having the approval by getting something before the board in January, February. We know we have an election year coming up, and so taking all those into consideration. So more to come, but I'll continue to get you information and open to conversations at any time if a board member has any questions or comments or concerns. So there's more coming on that. And I'll just kind of, since we didn't have a board meeting, in July, which is a month where we don't have that and allows us to do different things. Some of my reports go back to June, and Dr. Pugh, we were at the Alpha Phi Kappa, again, just getting out there and getting involved, and we were on a panel. I think you did a great job and just dialoguing, so thank you. And we had other events that continued. We had the Women Officials Networks Foundation Seminar. I know Dr. Pritchett was there, Ms. Lipton, and thank you. I think you got me in contact with that group. I really enjoyed the panel, and I had some feedback afterwards. They like the voice of positivity with teachers and some of the participants that I've run into since then. I've had those. And then the student, Nicole, who's in there, I won't mention the last name, but she's a student, if you remember, from Detroit Public Schools. And I promised her I'd go visit her school, and she also joined our Student Advisory Council. So we got her on that committee. And it was great. She had some criticisms and areas for improvement, and we want to see it. And then she had some areas that she was positive. But that's what we need to hear from students and the things they're doing. Hence, the Student Advisory Council, my favorite thing, getting with the students. We had them here all in Lansing in June. Dr. Renee Garcia, before she had left on to a new job, was involved. I know Allison Shrewsbury, Dan Centers, Precious Boone. And so we had a big group here from all over the state of Michigan. This was the picture we took, and then they went on to the Capitol. And I got some pictures of that. They got into my office as well. We did a rotation with all of them, so they were here in the boardroom. Some of them, I think, maybe even sat in my chair by my desk. I can't remember, Dan, but just the interaction was important. That was the Senate caucus area. We walked through on the House floor, and one of the rules is Olivia wasn't allowed because she's the lobbyist technically registered. She had to go in some back door, but now I know where the back door secret path is, so just watch out. But the students were great to hear, and Dan did a great job. And actually, I think, I don't know if I click it, I'll play a 1-minute message. Why not? Hey everyone, it's another 1-minute message update. I'm here with Kylie and Alexis. We're right outside the Brian Whiston Fountain near the Capitol. How's it going here today, Kylie?
It's going really well. We're here for a meeting with the Student Advisory Council.
And what's going on with you, Alexis?
I'm also here for the meeting, and we're going to the Capitol after this.
Awesome, that's so excited. I wish I could go with you. I have another meeting, but it was so great to be part of your meeting today. And I'm so excited that we have so many students from all over the state that have come to get involved in leadership. We truly value student voice. Thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Way to go. All right. There was an update to that too. Karen was able to cancel that other meeting, and I went to the Capitol with them. So, but it was great to see them. They have assignments and things that they're gonna be involved with promoting voter registration drives with young youth, and they're gonna be involved in a lot of things. So they've got some projects, and we submitted also a presentation for the National Superintendent Association about the model. So we'll see what happens there. So it continued travels and just getting involved with the different association, feeling the partnership, being out there. I know a lot of MDE staff has been out as well with that student first sign, promoting the message. This was the Michigan Intermediate School Superintendents, meeting with them from ISD superintendents. So that was very positive. That was in Muskegon. And then I went to the Michigan Alliance of Student Opportunity, former Middle Cities. Mesa Molly Bazzi, before she started, she went out as well. She was invited by Peter Spatafor. So we had a very rich dialogue. I would tell you it was very positive. We had some follow-ups, but the feedback that we received from superintendents is they like to hear the partnership and they felt like they were being heard. And so I think it was important that we were out there, doing those kind of things. We were at the Skillman Foundation. Again, my trial, this is in June, and I know Angelique Powers does a great job. Alison Shrewsbury went there with me just to dialogue and to see what we could do and support. They had a lot of questions for me, actually. So, what are the things we're doing? What are different initiatives? And that was in the Capitol at the Heritage Hall, I believe is where we were. Went right on after that up to the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals in Traverse City. That was just a quick turnaround. Josh Jones is the assistant principal who I always run into on the left there, and he's the one that I met with students. I think I told you last time when I was in Mackinac Island, I went and met with his 5th graders. So I saw him again in Escanaba, but he's very involved. And Wendy Zeb retired. And that's Colin Ripmaster, who's now the new executive director. So I was giving keynote at that conference. And I know, Dr. Pugh, you mentioned the State Board of Education Committee. So I won't go into any detail, but I know that's been very positive, the dialogue. We're still working through things, but I think a lot of progress and planning has been made. I do want to mention to the board that this is tentative, but going back to the May, and I talked to Dr. Pugh about this, so she knew that I was going to talk to you about it. Going back to the May retreat, we talked about how we were going to send some meetings on the road on different parts of the state. So this is very tentative right now. And some of these meetings potentially could tag, if we're in different areas, onto the special ed committee. So for example, like if we're in Detroit, and I know Dr. Pritchett, you had said about Macomb, maybe there's a couple of different things we can do. So tentatively, very tentative, nothing set. If you have feedback, provide it to Dr. Pugh or myself. We're looking potentially at November in the Saginaw-Flint area. We're trying to take into consideration weather and other things and what other schedules are on the agenda. Like, for example, we have the Blue Ribbon Schools that will be presented here in December, so we need to be in Lansing. We're looking potentially at February for the Metro Detroit area. These, again, are tentative. We're still open to the ideas. We have May, and May is the one because there's other things going on in the Upper Peninsula, so we're looking at early May, I think early to mid-May, tentatively, but on the Upper Peninsula, possibly Marquette. We also have to work at the technology and other things. Like I do know I talked to Superintendent Nyan there, and they have all the ability for streaming and everything. So those are things. And we also talked about the fact that we may switch out, so it's not as costly to make we might do 2 study sessions this year, so we could still have it streamed, but that way it was less costly with the amount of people we have to bring and things of that. That was discussed at the May meeting, if some of you may recall. So we may switch out one that way so we can get to different parts. And so we were going back and forth, but we're looking potentially at September, going to the west side, the Grand Rapids area. And then if we choose, if it's successful, we would then be able to, look at other areas like Escoda and the year after that. There were some recent changes that we just recently discussed in talking to Dr. Pugh. So again, we're open to feedback still, but we got to get planning, right? So the team, and we felt like going to ISDs would be better because it's more regional, especially if they have technology. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Again, please feel free to reach out to me or Dr. Pugh, but I wanted to get that kind of like, we're moving on that. And then again, you'll be partnering depending on what, Dr. Pugh and the committee, special ed, and Mr. McMillan, the vice chair, and the special ed committee want to do with feedback. Could be like we're there the night before and we're meeting on special ed, and then that day, I think it was your idea, Mr. McMillan. And then, so that may be how we can get to like Macomb and Detroit. And we also felt too, like February, people are going to drive to Lansing if it's weather, but we know we have a lot of board members in the Metro Detroit area too. So that
September, we hope to be able to solidify.
Yes,
at the
next
September
month.
meeting,
So we want to,
yes.
that's why we're kind of saying the tentative potential so that Dr. Pugh would finalize it in September. And then we can work on logistics. Okay, so I'm not going to go into committee initiatives because we had it there, but I am sharing some of this because it's coming from your meetings, Dr. Pugh, with like when I go to the associations and giving them updates. It continued to, Michigan Public Relations. I did a keynote speech there here in Lansing. I had presented nationally on communications and working together and promoting positive with social media and other things. So I was able to get in with that group. Detroit Public Schools continue the partnership with Dr. Vitti Just a couple weeks ago, Ms. Lauren Carter-Enzoma, Dr. Dixon and I met with Dr. V and the team. We've been in constant communication. And Dr. Pugh, the violence grant, prevention grant, the second round is going out next week, I believe, right, Dr. Golzinski? So we're making sure that Detroit and others, so that we have additional funding for that. And I did send a message to Dr. Vitti on that. But we had a good dialogue. We did a follow-up. We're working on things. I think they feel like we're listening. There may be not everything we can do, but one of the things we're going to try to do is also partner down there with Wayne County RESA and working with Detroit. So with Dr. Colbert and her team. Dr. Carnell, okay. Well, in the month of July too, I don't have a picture on it, but I had I think I sent it in board briefs. The CCSSO, I went with all the state superintendents, and I got to meet a lot of them firsthand. I've got cell phone numbers from several. We got to know each other better. So when we want to talk about literacy or Mississippi, I know him very well now. Got along very well. If we want to talk Massachusetts, several others that were interested in what we were doing in Michigan. So we have direct lines of communications. I think I grew really good relationships with about 12 of them in particular, but others, so I'll continue with those groups. And there was also the Education Commission of the state in Washington. So it was kind of a busy July. This is Dr. Carnell. We had, her retirement, and really, it was really positive, and it was a great way to kind of recognize her. I know we also recognize here, and thank you to the board for the resolution and what you had done previously as well. I didn't come up with this name. Susan Bigelow with Kelly Siciliana Carter. So what this is I'm meeting with internal MDE staff, and there's the opportunity for them to come and meet with me and ask questions and just dialogue. So they named it Center Ice Chat. Obviously, it's got a hockey, and then they had freezies and stuff they were giving out. But I didn't create that, but I actually love it. So we're going to continue with that. Susan did a great job. It was very positive. We had some questions and comments. We want to listen. I kind of equate it to like when I would go into schools and listen to parents or staff. Same thing, we were listening to the MDE staff and their areas. And of course, we have time for the student first. I got into the summer program we were talking about. I know Ms. Lipton, the Balmer, and Ms. Ali Bazzi had done massive partnerships with the Balmer in summer. So I got into a summer program, went back into my roots in Dearborn. And Mohammed Abusal, the principal there, who I hired a couple years ago, I actually mentor him, so I continue to do that. And he's doing some real positive work, so we were able to meet in Dearborn. Michigan Education Alliance, Terrence Martin from AFT had requested that I attend, and built a really good relationship with AFT. I mean, we've built one with the MEA, but my roots, because Dearborn, we were an AFT district. So it was up there in Traverse City. So all the Alliance, some of them weren't there, but right after that, it was up to the UP. I don't have the picture on here, but when they gave me an hour to speak before all the administrators in the UP, and it was higher education as well. But I had a picture of Dr. Nyan, who's very tall. He's about 6'4". I should have put it on this, where he's like buried in snow in like the end of March because they got hit really hard. And I just said, I'm glad that I was at the one on the left, which was a fish fry in August versus getting buried in the snow. And there again, Mr. Jones, you can see he's everywhere. So just partnering, I answered some questions. I went to a few different receptions with them in the evening, and just to continue the dialogue. They are big proponents of trying to get us moving on MTSS, we're hearing, and they're also concerns with special education, and they want to work together. And this was just yesterday, so Dan Centers and I, we just came back from Traverse City. Most times I would not do it the day before a board meeting, but we just thought it was very important. I was there. I was asked to keynote by Abby Seifer. And just so the board is aware, it brings back, it's a conference I'll always remember, because this time last year on this very day, I was there giving a keynote, I was giving a breakout session, partnering with Micah Saley, who's now the superintendent at Dearborn. I know you know him, Dr. Pugh. And we were giving a presentation on the model in Dearborn and our co-teaching. And I got a call from Dr. Max McGee. I had to step out because you guys were meeting here, and he said, you're getting chosen as one of the 8 people to get an interview that you all approved. So thank you for that. And I'll always remember that. And then I went back in, and then they announced, oh, Dr. Maleko. So that breakout group all cheered. So I'll always remember that. So that's why I'm always going to remember Mace. And then they were just very appreciative I was there. And I've never had it. They were excited in the reception. Abby Seifer announced the superintendent's here, we're taking pictures, you know, like, so they all came, it was a big line, right, Dan? I mean, thank goodness you were there to help, because, I don't know. But it was very positive, they were very excited, and obviously partnering with that group is a huge player in the state for special education. So I was able to talk to them about your committee, Dr. Pugh, Mr. McMillan, and the board, and Dr. Pritchett, and we talked about that in the keynote when I gave that presentation. And that's where Lauren is, so that's why she's not here right now. She contacted me. So we had the budget signing, I know, Senator Bullock was there, Ms. Tilley, Dr. Pritchett. Again, thank you to Emma Young in the governor's office for allowing MDE to speak at that, one of the speakers, and we did get, the student first going. I know Bob criticized me a little because I put the student first in front of my head, and so he couldn't get the clear picture, but I learned next time not to do that, so. We're excited about the literacy laws and things that we've talked about today, so I won't go into that. And, Spencer mentioned the educator on loan, I already talked about that, but we're excited that we have that ability potentially to bring people into the department that worked in school districts and allow them to maintain that MIPSR's retirement. So that is a positive. We're still working through some things, and again, Emma Young is really helping us there. And so other things that are happening, actually tomorrow, we are taking on a committee on innovation called Reimagining the High School. We have the ed.org partners that are going to be coming. You may have heard of different things from the Future Learning Council. There's one that former Governor Schneider has. There's also Launch. There's all these different things. So we are taking the lead on these ideas from the department, and Dr. Chapman is going to be in charge of that. We have all the players in there with the unions and others that are coming in, and everyone has said, yes, I believe they all want to be part of it, right? And I know you're very excited, Dr. Chapman, so I'll be at the meeting tomorrow to kind of welcome and set the parameter, but we're excited about what we can do and having MDE really in a leadership area in this area. And I've talked to Senator Paul Hankey heavily about this, and she's very excited about it as well, and other legislators. I won't go over the calendar, but upcoming events will continue. I know Karen's got me busy, but she does an awesome job. I am telling you, so lucky to have her. Like, it's to the minute where I need to be, and I've never been in the wrong spot. That's all I got to say over the course of the year. It's amazing, though, but you do need good people, and, with Alisand and Dan, and, excited. I know Mason will probably be hitting the road with us and other things to just make sure we're partnering out there with other districts. So that's all I have for this report, and thank you, Dr. Pugh, and board members for listening to some of the things, and open to your feedback at any time, or if we need to meet one-on-one, or, open to doing that, or if you need to just talk about strategic plan renewal, more to come, but we'll make sure we continue to keep you informed. Okay, the next thing that we have on the agenda is state and federal legislative update with Olivia Ponte. We'll let her come up, and she was the hero for us during budget. She was just rocking it out of the park with the work, and very passionate about the work she does, and very knowledgeable, and just great teamwork working together. I know with Mr. Wheaton, who's here as well, and that department does great work. And I know you worked heavily with Mr. Centers as well on some of the passage and working in partnership with Emma Young. So I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, board members. You already saw the budget report, so you got a lot of information there. There's not as much going on as usual in Lansing, with a lot of legislators being home in the districts right now, but I think Olivia still has some things to share with you today, so I'll turn it over to her.
Awesome, thank you, and thank you, Dr. Malenko. So like Bob said, the big news is the budget, which Dr. Golzinski and Spencer gave a great overview of earlier. But since we last met, there are 6 new public acts, 2 of which are the budget. So 1 public act for the State School Aid Act, 1 public act for the general omnibus budget for all the state departments. And then we've got the 2 science of reading teacher training bills. So the 1 bill that you heard about today, I should say law now, that requires the science of reading training for K-5 educators, and then the 1 law that requires the faculty at educator prep programs to take that training. And then 5 and 6 for the 6 PAs that I was going to mention today. 5 is one that Dr. Golzinski also touched on, but the codification of the weighted funding formula. And what this is it's the codification of the requirements and how you serve the EL students and the economically disadvantaged students. So the funding amounts and the exact increases, that was in Senate Bill 904. That one did not pass. What passed is Senate Bill 903. So that has all of the requirements that you previously would have found in those respective categoricals. So all the language that was in Section 41 for EL students, all the language that was in 31A for at-risk, that's now in school code. So while you may have a debate next year about how much money or how big of an increase the weight is going to be, you won't have an increase in the conversation won't be will we fund it, will be how much. So that is really exciting to see. And then the last one was Senate Bill 989. This was the bill that removed the sunset for the alternate route interim teaching certificate for teachers of special education. This bill was, or this law was enacted in 2020. There was a sunset for 3 years, so that sunset was extended. And now it was removed because we've seen how positive this program has been. Since 2020, it's allowed 262 more special education teachers into the pipeline. So very excited about that. So those are the 6 new public acts that we've seen since the last board meeting. And like Bob said, the legislature is off mostly for the summer. We expect 1 full week of session in August, likely the week of the 25th, but we're not sure how much action will be taken, and especially how much action will be taken in both chambers, right? So with a divided government in an election year, things can get pretty divisive. So both chambers might do something that maybe won't make it across the finish line. But other than that, it will probably be slow sailing until the election, and then we'll see what kind of lame duck session we get this year. But that's all I've got. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, well, just want to thank both of you, and just for the public, I know the board knows, but Mr. Wheaton's Director of Office of Public and Governmental Affairs and Olivia Ponte, Legislative Liaison. I didn't make that just for the public. I know the board's aware, so apologize for that. So thank you. Oh, Dr. Pugh.
Yeah, well, since no one else, the sunset law, has there been any pushback to that?
No.
Everyone thinks that that's a
Unanimous
good idea?
vote in both
Okay.
chambers.
All right, okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So the last thing we have on the agenda, well, the second last thing is comments by any state board members. Does any state board member like any comments? Mr. McMillan?
One thing, or a couple things. A couple things. Regarding foster care and the transcripts and getting that ironed out. I remember when we were interviewing you,
Yes,
we had talked
yeah.
about it. And then, is there any progress in that, or how is that going? I just kind of wanted to know if there's. I apologize. I should have talked to you about this before.
Yeah,
but
I'll have to get you an update.
Okay.
You know.
yeah,
get back
I
to
do
you.
want to keep that
Yeah,
front
sure,
and center.
sure,
I mean,
yeah,
it
thank
seems
you.
like I don't know if it's an easy or a difficult, but if it's difficult, I'd like to dive
Thank you.
into it or figure it out, and if it's easy, let's get it done.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, SB 952, I do hope that the Senate takes it up. I know it's a Republican who authored it, and he didn't, from what I could tell, he didn't get any co-sponsors, no Dems, so it may be difficult. I hope that he got a double blue back and find a state rep who would introduce it, and they should be able to get a hearing on it a little bit easier. But I do encourage, both education committees in the Senate and the House to, take up this issue. I mean, I couldn't get, when I was in the legislature, I had to do it just over my oversight committee that I chaired and brought it and opened it up to parents and, kind of looking at the system of special ed and provided a forum. And we're certainly going to do that here at the state board. And I'm very excited about these coming months. But the legislature doesn't preclude them from taking it up too and looking into it. So I really hope that the legislature will do that, and that would be my encouragement.
Thank you. And I'll make sure to get you an update, a report on the foster.
Thank you.
Anybody else, any comments? Ms. Tilly?
I just want to say, you know, everybody has a different way of doing things, but I am very excited that we are making traction when it comes to special education. I am excited that there is a new committee. I am excited that there are changes that are happening within SEAC that will hopefully be very fruitful. And I anticipate will be very fruitful. And I'm also very excited about our special education teacher of the year. Eric's voice will be at the table, very needed voice. So I think we are definitely headed in the right direction. And I welcome the public, like President Dr. Pugh said, that it will be a public meeting. So please chime in. I know I've had different parents come to me for different reasons when it comes to special education, needing help, needing an advocate, and I've advocated. And I will also say it is not just a public education issue, it is also a private education issue where there are changes that are needed across education. So I'm excited about where we're headed, though. Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, last thing is just future meeting dates. For the regular meetings of State Board of Education, please take note that the September meeting is Wednesday, September 9th, because the Labor Day holiday weekend is the 7th. So that's always on the Wednesday. So it's Wednesday, September 9th at 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, October 13th at 9:30 a.m. And then Tuesday, November 10th, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. Time is 3:27. We are adjourned and hope everyone has safe travels back. Thank you.